Welcome to the final episode of Under the Hood for Bloom. This will not be the final episode forever, probably. There are going to be others for other songs and other projects, but this concludes the series for Raynes' acclaimed EP, Bloom. And of course, we are talking about the final track on Bloom, Say That You Want It. This song is by far the oldest song on Bloom. I think I wrote this when I was 20, and interestingly, it has not changed that much. Usually, if I have a song forever, which I usually do, I will screw around with it and it will really evolve over the years. And this one didn't really. Before we dive in, I am going to show you a real exclusive peek behind the curtain. As you can see here, there is a file called Angel. This is the original demo from a very long time ago when I did not know how to mix or really do anything. It is reverbed out like crazy. It is just a top line, which means it's the melody but not real lyrics. And you can hear kind of how incredibly similar all of this is to the final record.
I take my time, the only one you'll ever love. So you can take your time and you'll answer away. You see the first these words just to try and make your day. And let's keep it safe, keep it safe, or keep it sound.
No need to keep it down, keep it safe, or keep it sound. Somehow that turned into a real lyric. But this one has been around for so long that we recorded like a couple versions of it for demos way back in the day. It actually was the last song we played at our first showcase as a band at the Beverly Hills Gibson showroom, which no longer exists. Let's get into it. The conceit of Bloom is that it does bloom. It starts off relatively sparse and builds until the climax at the end with Say That You Want It, which is a 5-minute long exactly song. It is almost entirely orchestral, as you can see from the tracks here. There's a grand piano, there's some flute textures, there are a few little ambient synth pads, there's brass, there's strings, and then there is an acoustic guitar, but there's no electric, there's no very obvious affected synths. All the percussion, except for at the very end, is orchestral. There's an orchestral snare, there's concert toms, an orchestral bass drum, chimes, timpani, gongs, all sorts of things that you would expect from an orchestra. We'll start with the strings, since that is really the engine behind the whole song. So, as you can see here, there are a lot of strings. There are more than in any other track on Bloom because I wanted it to be an orchestra. So there are a few, relatively few tracks of VST strings, and most of it is a string quartet that I think there are 3 different takes of each performance in here. That's our intro, setting the scene. Something that I find a little funny is that this hot organ final is just a stock Logic plugin, and this one was in the original version that I wrote when I was 20, and I just kept it for nostalgia's sake. It adds a little bit. It doesn't add nearly as much as as it could, but I like it. What am I saying? That's great. That has to be in there. As a writer, or I guess more accurately, producer, I have a real tendency to start pretty sparse and end pretty massive. That's just what I like to do. I don't do it all the time because it can be a crutch, but with this one, I did it very intentionally. So in the first verse, the only tracks are an acoustic guitar, a bass, and Mark's vocal. I won't play those soloed because that sounds exactly like the record, but I will say that the bass part is so easy that I played it. Like falling off a log. I will solo the acoustic guitar because there are, as usual, some interesting colors in there. It just flips back and forth between the 1, 4, and 5 chords the entire verse. Honestly, the entire song except for the instrumental bridge, which goes to the minor 6. But I'll play this so you can hear some of the colors. Not too crazy, but the motion in there with the additions of the extensions and the sus chords does a lot for it. The piano, which is a grand piano plugin from Pianotech, which is phenomenal, comes in at the first pre-chorus, and I will solo that. It's very delicate initially. There's no low end to it at first, and then it builds in the chorus with just sort of whole tones. Moving right along, we will go to the texture. There's not much, but there's enough to give it texture. I wanted it to sound symphonic, and so I used some flute textures. I didn't really want a flute part, like a proper flute part. I wanted it to sort of function as a pad, so I'll play this with the piano and the hot organ, and you can hear it in context. So you can hear it's barely there, but it adds the air in that section that I wanted. And even if you look at this waveform, it barely happens, but just enough to accent where it should accent. I'm going to play the strings in the second verse and the second pre-chorus. It's hard to pick a favorite string section for me in this song. I think they're all great, but the movement and the staccato interlocking arrangement between the two violins, the viola and the cello. I mean, I know I did it, but it blew my mind. I worked on it for, years, actually, and I think it worked out. I will admit that I'm pretty proud of that. I'm going to play that again because the thing that I didn't solo in that is the brass section. There is a trumpet, a French horn, and a trombone section, all VSTs. But they add, I mean, brass means triumph. And in this part of the song, I wanted there to be a real uplift along with the strings. This is almost not worth doing since the meat of it, we already discussed the strings and the brass and the piano. But I'll play the orchestral percussion tracks just so we can get a feel for how that sounds solo. There's a lot of space. I move the microphones kind of as far away as possible to give it a sense of, I don't know, being recorded in a concert hall. Not that exciting, but it stays out of the way in a way that a real kit might not, and it also really accentuates the orchestral symphonic feeling of the whole track. Now to my favorite part of this song, maybe, the vocals. The vocal harmony arrangement in this song is very delicate. By that I mean that there are 4 voices. It's 2 of me, 1 of Joe, and 1 of Mark. The issue with writing harmony parts for vocals is that there's not a lot of room often. There's not, if you want to keep the harmonies tight, there's not a lot of space to go. Especially the more voices you add, the less space there is. And you don't want to, it's frowned upon to cross voices, which means, for example, the lead going underneath in pitch the like a secondary harmony part, because then you lose track of, as a listener, you lose track of what the lead is, and it kind of just becomes mush. But you can break the rules if you know the rules. I will show you how I did this and how I do harmony writing in general. There's a great vocoder plugin from iZotope that I use to arrange harmony parts so that I don't have to sing every single part and make sure that it works and keep re-recording it. I never have used a vocoder in an actual final track. It's always just a reference, just a guide. But I will show you what this looks like. So this is just the piano roll. It's all MIDI. How I color code stuff is the red 125 velocity is the lead line. The 90 is the top. The 110 is the bottom. And then if there is going to be a 4th part or additional parts, those are just different colors. So we see here that there's a part on the bottom, part on the top, and then coming in the middle here. So all these muted notes are notes that are in the chord that's playing in the piano at this point, but did not work or just didn't sound as good as another option. So this is what it sounds like just vocoded.
Well, I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. If you need a shot in the arm, but if you don't want it, don't say that you want it. And maybe I'm misreading the signs, or maybe I'm losing my mind. But if you still want it, just say that you want it.
And you'll see here that there is very, very little voice crossing, right? So all of these 110 velocities go beneath all of the other parts. The 90 velocities, which is my higher harmony, go above. And you'll see, I mean, I don't know if people are looking this closely, but I am. You'll see that there are parts where, for example, you see there are 3 notes here, not 4. This note, my harmony part, goes from the A to the A flat. Mark is singing the A flat, but if I had added an additional note there, I tried all of them, they didn't sound right. So I am singing the same note there, and then it just turns into a G sharp minor. This muted note is still in G sharp minor, but it didn't make sense. This voice would have had to come up, and it was awkward to go from this range and then fall back to this one, and the rest of the instrumentation is taking care of the rest of it. In this first chorus, there are only 3 voices for the first part of the chorus, and then my top harmony comes in at the second part when this percussion comes in.
Well, I'm willing to say that I'm wrong if you need a shot in the arm. But if you don't want it, don't say that you want it. And maybe I'm misreading the signs, or maybe I'm losing my mind. But if you still want it, just say that you want it.
Oh, another interesting thing that I almost forgot about. There are a few vocal ambience tracks that are kind of just chopped and screwed samples that I stretched and retuned. And they were also in my very first demo of this. And they add, again, a lot of the air that I was looking for. And you can hear that's not atonal, but it's a little bit dissonant in context. So there's a crunch there. It doesn't really fit into the chords, but it moves along with them in a way that is interesting. I'm going to solo 2 more string parts, so just bear with me or skip ahead if you're not into strings. This is the instrumental bridge. It's important, I think, if you're going to have a proper instrumental bridge, to make a melody. I don't think rehashing the same thing or redoing the vocal melody over and over again is always that interesting. Sometimes it works, but also this song is 5 minutes long, and I want you to keep listening. There's something new. So that's just a moment for the strings to really shine. At the end, of course, it goes crazy. There's sort of all stops are pulled. There's the trumpets, the horns, the trombones, all the strings, the pads. As you can see here, these waveforms, those are just some more pad ambience. I will play the piano part first, just because I noticed it now and I don't want to miss that. Sometimes I get a little sad that the human ear can't hear everything at once. It can, but I say that because That's a beautiful piano part. It's in the mix somewhere, and you don't really hear that unless I solo it for you now. But I'm going to solo that, the horns, and the strings. Sorry, that went on for way too long, but I was caught up in the moment. You can hear in the record the gang vocals at the end. Interesting thing about these is that they were recorded, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, and these are the same vocals that we did then. I have no idea how they sound. I hope they're good. I'm going to play them.
Well, I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. If you need a shot in the arm, but if you don't want it, don't say that you want it.
Okay, they sound all right. I'm going to solo those with Mark's lead, and then I still have all three harmony parts in there as well. So this is just going to be a vocal smorgasbord here for a moment.
Well, I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. If you need a shot in the arm, but if you don't want it, don't say that you want it. And maybe I'm misreading the signs, or maybe I'm losing my mind. But if you still want it, just say that you want it. Well, I'm willing to say.
I will show you something else that I think is kind of fun. Again, 5 or 6 years ago, maybe more, when we did this demo, I did a very long, loud yell, kind of as high and as loud as I could, full voice, it just seemed like the time for it. And Joe told me when I was producing this, he said, keep that yell. Don't do another take. That yell is perfect. So this is me 6 years ago doing this yell. I'll turn it up so you can hear it.
Say that you want it. Well, I'm willing to say that I'm wrong. If you need a shot in the arm, but if you don't want it, don't say that you want it.
I'm glad I kept that in there. It really, you hit the climax, I feel like you just gotta scream. And I hate to say it, but that's kind of it. I mean, there are a lot of little tiny details which you could sort of hear in the chords and the colors and the motion and all of that. But I don't think many people want me to, well, I could be wrong. I'm not going to look at every single note. I've done that enough. I'll end this by saying I have gotten quite a few questions about how I title songs. This one was originally called Bet on Your Heart, which is a phrase that happens once in the first pre-chorus. Now, I love titling a song a phrase that only happens once if it makes sense, if it is sort of the nucleus of the song. This one, sometimes I like to do a title that is a little bit boring and just let the song speak for itself. Like this one, Say That You Want It, is it's not that hooky of a title. It's a little bit sexy out of context, but in context, it's just more desperate. And I think this phrase made sense because it happens twice in every chorus. At first, it's don't say that you want it if you don't still want it, and if you still want it, just say that you want it. So I think it works. It makes more sense than Bet on Your Heart, I think, in this context. And with that, for now, I will say goodbye. I will do a bunch more of these for upcoming Raynes songs. Thank you for watching. I love you very much.